完璧などありえない。この世界は不完全。だから美しい。もう
バカ。
何？
俺は海賊王になる。なんて美味しさなの。
力を渡した時に言ったことを覚えているかい？くれ。違う、そこじゃない。
変態。遅い。
Hello and welcome to More Than Hentai, a podcast that is here to show that anime is far more than just tentacles and catgirls. There's also countless stories of love, loss, laughs, hope, horror, and happiness that are just dying to be found. And I, Brendan White, the Salt and Pepper Senpai, am here to help you find them. More Than Hentai is proudly powered by Audio-Technica and Dashwater, so please go upgrade your audio and hydration games today, but preferably after you listen to this banger of an episode we got in store for you today. And joining me in the studio is a man who, when not searching for that one perfect game, can be found rocking that one perfect outfit that somehow has more drip than a leaky tap. He's a podcast and panel host with love for sport, professional wrestling, and the occasional medieval festival. Outside of a few of the classics and a fleeting romance with Digimon, he's fairly new to the world of anime, so I'm super duper mega excited to be his anime Sherpa today. You can find him on the socials at It's Tilby, which is ITSTILBY. Matt Tilby, you bloody legend. Welcome to the studio. How might you be doing?
I am doing quite well, Mr. Brendan White. It's good to see you. We've been trying to organize this episode for what feels like months, and it's finally happened. So yeah. It's good to just see your face and hear the dulcet tones.
Oh, why, thank you. And same goes right back to you. It's always good to jump on a microphone with you. Like, for those that are unaware of who we are and what we do, we actually used to host many a basketball podcast on a podcast that we titled Hoop Dreams way back yonder. I've also dabbled in the gaming space together and in parallel for many, many moons. So it is nice to be jumping back into this virtual studio with you. But yeah, it has been an ordeal. Like, it feels like Blue Box is nearly in its third season by the time we've recorded that. Minor spoilers as far as the title we're going to be covering here. But it's so good to have you on board. But let's talk about you. Let's talk about who you are, what you do, what makes you tick. Like, I did mention One Perfect Game. You've got 33 episodes in the chamber. I love the concept. I was very fortunate enough to be on an episode with you on that podcast way back when. But how is the podcast creation game going? You got another episode coming out soon, I hope?
Yeah, I've actually got one in the can at the moment, currently in the editing phase. It is with Gemma Driscoll, G of D, who is one half of the talent or on-screen talent behind Good Game Spawn Point on ABC. So that's going to be a really fun episode. She was an absolute delight to speak with. I won't be giving away what game she's, or series, I should say, to give a little bit of a spoiler.
Okay.
It is one of the more sort of, I guess, loose discussions that we've had on the podcast. But yeah, look, it's been a labor of love that has really sort of taken me a fair amount of places, if I'm being honest. But it's always a lot of fun seeing what these sorts of video games mean to people and what, and I guess how they've influenced people as well. It's really sort of a uniting force, regardless of what people's professions are. And I think it really sort of shows in the sort of broad range of people that I managed to get on the show.
Dude, you have had a murderer's row of diverse personalities from all walks of life. Like, obviously, you've had like video game and video game adjacent related people. You've got now like an AEW contracted professional wrestler that you've had on the show. Shout out to Mike Bailey for sort of making it to the big leagues recently. Awesome to see. Yeah, like comedians, musicians, like, it is crazy, like the net that you've cast and sort of the people that you've sort of pulled in on said net. So yeah, shout out to you for that, because it's a testament to you and the work rate to bring in so many diverse personalities that are all unified by the greatness of video games.
Yeah, it's a lot of cold calling, if anything. It's a lot of hit and hope, just throwing it out there and seeing if anyone sort of responds to the bait on the line. But yeah, look, I've had, as you said, like professional wrestlers, I've had musicians, I've had army veterans come on through, and it's really sort of, I think that is the biggest thing that I wanted to really sort of, I guess, bring onto the show was, keeping that sort of gaming aspect to it, or that sort of gaming universe, was fine. But I think to really sort of showcase how unifying and connecting games can be, I really wanted to showcase a broader range of professions and sort of people from all walks of life. And it just so happens that, comedians, for some odd reason, really enjoy the video game space. And, professional wrestlers, for whatever reason, really enjoy playing video games all of a sudden. Like, you can't go anywhere at this point in time without, hearing about Kenny Omega, or, as I said, Speedball Mike Bailey. Like, their love for games like Final Fantasy has really sort of influenced them all the way up until their current professional career. So yeah, it's really just sort of highlighting the different walks of life that people come in, and it's been a really, really fun ride so far.
It's so good. Like, obviously, I'm a big video game fan, live and breathed it for years. A little less so these days, which is kind of sad to say out loud, but I love that there is just so many people from so many different walks of life united by that medium. And same goes with, like, obviously we're here to talk about anime in a little while, but same sort of thing where you meet people from the most left of center type of employment paths and careers and whatnot, and you still somehow bond over this niche video game or this niche anime or this niche hobby that you think no one else shares. Like, I love that these types of hobbies and these fandoms constantly bring people together around the world. And yeah, shout out to One Perfect Game for sort of being a good, like, embodiment of that, I think.
Yeah, thank you. It's been something that has probably not had as many sort of episodes as I would have liked. Life does get in the way more often than not, but yeah, it's just so much fun. And once the episode is out, and then sort of hearing about people really enjoying it and sort of really connecting with the games that people choose on a personal level, and sort of seeing everyone's different I guess stories for games that we've all just known and loved for years. Some of them are more obscure games, but it's really just at the end of the day, just a really good, fun discussion with some really, really fun people.
Yeah, and I love as well that your podcast, it's evergreen content. Like, these episodes and these conversations and these video games, they might go in and out of vogue as far as popularity goes, but like, you can be talking about a game from decades ago that is still relevant today, and someone can listen to it and it can still carry weight and sort of inspire or shock someone enough to go, man, I need to play that game. Like, that sounds so twisted or so messed up or so enjoyable. How have I not heard about this? So it's cool for the new or the lapsed fans, but also the potential fans that didn't know these things existed.
Yeah, it's the sort of certain stories that people tend to discuss on the episode, where they'll be like, oh, I was 7 years old and I was playing this game. We were just kids coming home from school and we were playing like Grand Theft Auto 3 or these sorts of games that I don't want to say take for granted, but it's definitely the sort of games where you wouldn't think to just be remembering that on a daily basis. Like, I talk about it all the time. Like, my favorite game that really sort of inspired me to play games and get into that field altogether was Super Mario 64, and that was a big thing for me, and sort of that's really sort of kickstarted my love for games. And it was really from there that I was able to get into this line of work. I don't think I'd be playing games or even probably talking to you if it wasn't for that game. So yeah, it's interesting to see how people respond to different games and those sorts of classic games, or even ones like you said, like that are a little bit more off the beaten path, a little bit more surprising than others. But hey, everyone seems to have a different connection to different games somehow.
Exactly. We do not yuck anybody's yums around here, whether it be your gaming habits, your viewing habits, your eating habits, your sexual habits. Like, it is all good as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else. I think all is fair game out there. And circling back, like 33 episodes, like you sort of said, you'd wish you'd do more, and sort of almost were a bit down that you hadn't done more. But like a little fact that most podcasts fail/close within the first 5 episodes. So you are already doing more than, I think it's like 90-something% of podcasts like lapse and go into the trash heap or on the back burner indefinitely at 5 episodes or under. So mate, you're already doing far more than 90% of the podcasters out there. So take some time to give yourself a pat on the back for that. But yeah, we're here obviously primarily to talk about the greatness that is anime. So I want to sort of go on a little bit of a journey. I want you to take me down memory lane, a nice brisk walk together, hand in hand, arm in arm, however you want to do this thing. I want to know your journey and your experience with anime. Like, you don't have to be the number one super anime fan that's watched everything. Like, I just want to know what touch you've had with this world, maybe some favorites, some things that have resonated with you, and where you're at today.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it at the start. Like, I think I've sort of really got into, like, I'm not a huge anime person. I think first and foremost, a lot of my sort of formative years, sort of, I'd have Cheese TV to thank for that. A lot of Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z, and I think our family at the time when that was on, we were definitely more of a Simpsons family.
Mm-hmm.
So we were probably a little bit more versed in sort of Western animation and more of that comedy styling. But I think having those sorts of opportunities to watch things like Pokemon and Digimon was pretty big. And then I think from there, as I started to get older, I definitely had verged more into sort of wrestling and video games and things like that. So that sort of anime interest kind of waned a little bit. I think I didn't really sort of jump into it too much. I think recently, within the last sort of maybe 2-3 years, just purely from the friends that I'd made and the colleagues that I'd worked with, they had more of an interest in anime. I watched a little bit more of sort of stuff recently, things like Mob Psycho 100 and Chainsaw Man were, I guess, a good jumping back in point because it wasn't too sort of they were accessible, I think, is probably the easiest way to describe it. You know, people were talking about like Vinland Saga and stuff, which I hadn't really watched yet, but I feel like that's sort of a little bit verging. Like, you got to go start at the bottom, work your way up a little bit for something that isn't so full on, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it. But yeah, like I'm in that camp where it's like I've watched a little bit. It's not something that I've watched too often, especially recently. You know, the boy thing's just got in the way, sport, games, that sort of thing. But yeah, like if someone recommends me something to watch, I'll definitely, you know, keep my ears and eyes open and give it I guess, keep it under consideration. It's probably the best way to describe it.
And that's all we can hope for. I think the thing, and it sort of runs a similar sort of tune to video games and stuff. There's just so much coming out all the time, like new anime and new video games, new TV, new film, new books, etc., new seasons of sport, both in video game form and in real life. Like, it is so hard to keep up to date with everything, and you've really got to pick and choose. I wouldn't say pick and choose your battles, but yeah, pick and choose where you're going to invest your time and which fandoms you're going to focus on. So I totally get it. And like, I envy you in a way, because me, on the other hand, I'm like, no, I need to consume it all, even if it's going to be probably detrimental to my mental health and like sleeping habits. So for better or for worse, like when I'm all in, and I'm trying to juggle many different plates, but I'm sort of keeping them all up and haven't broken too many lately. But I love that a couple that you've jumped into are very like balls to the wall, eye-opening, what the hell is going on stuff. Like Mob Psycho 100, it's got one of the most unique art styles you'll see in anime, and just the use of neon and color and just crazy what the hell moments. Like, it is a banger. It's one of my favorite anime doing the rounds. And then Chainsaw Man again, like, it is like, what did I watch? Like, am I on drugs right now? There is a little kid here, or a teenage boy, that just wants to touch a boob, and he can pull a chainsaw like choke out of his chest, and his head becomes a giant chainsaw, and he's cutting up bloody demons, and there's all these things going on, and then he just wants a nice jam sandwich. Like, what is happening? But I am so invested and along for these rides, because I think anime and video games, again, like, they synergize so well, because they are two of the best vessels to tell these stories that no other medium really can. Like, you know, live action film and TV, and even sort of, you know, some traditional Western animated stuff can't do the things or take the chances that the Eastern market can do, or that the video game market can do. And I think they really, really go hand in hand together, because they are my two favorite, apart from like reading a good book, I guess, sometimes, because then it's in my head. But like, anime and video games are like my favorite mediums to tell a crazy good story that can jump from this genre to that genre and just, you know, be a good damn time.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm more of a sort of visual enjoyer of things rather than, as you sort of said, like I can read the occasional book now and again, but it's just not something that I enjoy as much as being able to see it, vividly come to life on a TV screen or a computer screen or whatever it may be. But as you said, like what is able to happen, I guess, in terms of the sort of Eastern portrayal of things in video games, like say for example like Yakuza. Like my sister's got me into the sort of Yakuza series and really sort of getting into what is a particularly bizarre series at the best of times. It certainly tries to masquerade as a really sort of serious and dramatic sort of series, but once you sort of scratch under the layers and sort of pull it back, like you're dealing with like fully grown men in nappies and
I was about to go to that exact place as well.
throwing bicycles at people and just like and slot car racing and all that sort of stuff. So like it's the closest thing that I can really think of compared to like anime now, where it's like it could be anything to anyone, and you really sort of got to find that enjoyment for yourself. And I think that's what makes both the sort of like Eastern games and anime at the moment so diverse and so wonderful.
Yeah, because these writers and animators and producers and showrunners, like they're more willing to take a chance than sort of the Western market for sure. And some of the things you probably wish they didn't take a chance on because you go, what? I feel very uncomfortable right now, or I hate this. But I love that there is literally something out there for everybody in the video game space and the anime space, because if you're looking for the most niche, bespoke thing, you could chuck it into my anime list or on Google, and you'll probably find a video game that'd meet that sort of brief, and you'd find probably a dozen anime that would meet that brief. And I love that because, it makes everyone feel included that way.
Yeah, it's a smorgasbord. It's a bit of everything for everyone, and you've got to sort of pick what you want and sort of if you've got a certain genre or a certain flavor that you want to go for, like there's always going to be options regardless of whether it's a game or an anime. It certainly relates to the series that you've picked for me to watch, part of our meeting here today.
Yeah, so this was a part, maybe like there was at least say 20% of this selfish and my own personal interest because I love this franchise so much and I just wanted to talk about it. But this was also like I was trying to think of an anime that was going to be accessible and not too intense or like off the beaten path to just be jarring for you, but somehow weave in some things that I know you love. So I'm hoping, and we don't want to sort of spoil the lead right now, and I'm going to say, hey, did you like it or love it? And you're like, no, this sucks and the episode's over. But like, I'm very curious to know what you took away from this anime if you progress beyond episode 1, because listeners, if you are stopping by More Than Headlines and More Than Hentai for the first time, firstly, thank you. Secondly, what took you so bloody long? But thirdly, the way More Than Hentai works is we're doing singular deep dives unpacking the first episode of an anime that at least one of us hadn't seen at the time. So we're sort of getting real, raw, honest reactions and thoughts on this first episode to see, is this an anime that resonates with us both or individually? And are we going to keep watching? And is it sort of worth watching? Like, would you recommend it to people? So we're just trying to sort of knock down some barriers, give you guys a good little taster and a good little teaser to see if these anime are worth your time, and also hope that my recommendations are more on the not, because I pride myself on a good recommendation, not only in video games, with anime, especially food. Like if someone asks me I'm in Sydney or blah, 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 and I want to get something for lunch or dinner, I'm feeling like this, like I take so much pride in that recommendation, and if it fails, it's going to haunt me for a long time. So I'm worried a little bit with this because you are sort of, I would say new to anime, but it's not a regular daily consumption for you. This is something that's been fleeting. And I feel this story, it's not divisive or controversial, but it might be a little different to maybe what you're typically watching. So I'm like,
Yeah, it's one that I think at the start, it definitely took me a bit to sort of settle in. As you said, it's not the kind of genre or style that I'm normally used to. It did make me wonder what, I know that you've already done a Blue Lock episode
Uh-huh.
before, I was like, why can't you give me that? Or like, I don't know if there's like a Captain Tsubasa like anime out there, like that could have been something for me to watch. I'm prefacing this. I'm not saying this because I didn't like it.
You just feel you probably would have liked something else more.
No,
potentially.
This took me a lot longer for me to enjoy than I would have expected.
Okay.
I'll say it now so everyone can get their quotes in and put it on the TikTok or whatever it is. I liked it. I'm just saying it was a difficult watch to start with.
And with anime, like I'm going to contradict myself.
Can we say what the title is?
We will in 2 seconds. Yeah, we will in 2 seconds. But I'll quickly sort of say, like, my typical rule of thumb to people that I'm recommending anime to is like, the rule of 3. Like, watch 3 episodes, and if you're not vibing, park it after that, because not a lot of anime can give you the full meal in the first 20 minutes in that first episode. There's a lot of exposition and table setting and things like that. So you might not get the train fully on the tracks and moving in that sort of 20-minute episode. So it can be a little risky doing the podcast in this way, where it's just, check out the first episode and we'll go from there. Where if I was to say to you, hey, Tilby, go check out Blue Lock, watch the first 3 episodes. If you love it, stick with it. If you don't, maybe it's not for you, because you usually get a good foundation after 3. But yeah, listeners, viewers, Maddie, Sugoi Squad, the title in focus for this episode of More Than Hentai is a sports romance shonen known as Blue Box, a series written and illustrated by Koichi Miura, which debuted in April of 2021 in Weekly Shonen Jump and has been since collected into 19 tankobon volumes and currently has 188 chapters of the manga at time of recording. An anime adaptation written by Yuki Kakihara, directed by Yuichiro Yano, with music by Takashi Ohama, and animated by Telecom Animation, the studio behind such titles as Tower of God, Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro, Orange, and Lupin, debuted in October of 2024, with episode 25, aka the season finale, slated to be airing this coming week, which I'm very excited about. Blue Box can be found currently on Netflix and holds a score of 8.29 out of 10 on my anime list, based on 58,000 unique user reviews, and a series that I am personally scoring at the moment a 10 out of 10, because it just resonates and hits and ticks all the boxes I love with my content. And the story of Blue Box is as follows. First year, Taiki Inamata trains diligently at his high school gym each morning to improve his badminton skills, partly motivated by his crush on Chinatsu Kano, a second-year student and star basketball player. Though initially distant, Chinatsu begins to notice Taiki's dedication, which inspires her to pursue her own ambitions. When Chinatsu's family moves overseas, she stays behind to aim for the National Basketball Championship and moves in with Taiki's family due to their mother's friendship. Living with the girl he admires, Taiki resolves to compete at the national level in badminton to grow closer to her. However, he faces tough competition for a spot on the starting team. Supported by Chinatsu and his childhood friends Hina and Kyo, Taiki is inspired to push through challenges and chase his goal. So the episode 1 title is Chinatsu Senpai. Tilby, let's go general impression, high-level stuff first, and then we'll sort of go beat by beat through how this episode plays out. So what was your overall vibes? Like, I know we sort of skated around it a couple of minutes back, but now we can jump into the meat and potatoes and get those thumbs up, thumbs down moments and what you thought from a general overview on Blue Box.
Look, I think in general, it felt like almost like the best bits of like Japanese anime that you would get, obviously without verging into more of the like more outlandish sort of stuff. It's that sort of like boy meets girl sort of thing, and really uses a lot of the tropes and sort of, I don't want to say cliche, but those sorts of very typical moments that you would find in those sorts of animes. And I like that it sort of used that to really good effect. I think I found it very jarring that it sort of went between the very serious sort of like will they, won't they sort of situation, and the more sort of like humorous sort of side of things, especially when Taiki's like meeting with Hina all the time. It's that jump. It just I'm not sure if I really enjoyed that sort of tonal change so often in one episode. I don't know, obviously, what it's like for the other episodes going forward. But yeah, it was just a very sort of like chop change sort of scenario, which I think was a little bit frustrating in that sense. But I think in the episode itself, I think it really sort of sets the tone for the series in general. And I think there's a lot to really sort of enjoy and really like and really admire. Like, I think the animation in this is superb. Like it looks so good. And I think the design team has done a really good job with it. But yeah, like I think it does a really good, like you were sort of mentioning like exposition and sort of really getting things out of the way for the first episode. You want to make sure that everyone's set up for it. I think it does a really good job of explaining the premise of the show within the first like minute. It's that voiceover. It's like, you know, I'm trying to win over this girl. And it's like, well, yeah, they've explained it within the first minute and they let the story play out. So I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I really enjoy the pacing of this first episode. Like you said, like it's a really easy table and tone setter as far as you learn the stakes within the first 60 seconds, getting some monologue from Taiki as he's on his way to the gym, and you know the reasonings behind, or part of the reasoning behind why he's on the way to the gym there. And so we get some heavy alluding to young high school romance. You know, I'm a sucker. I love love. So anytime there's some romantic hooks in any type of media, I'm like, all right, you've got my attention. Don't break my heart. Or if you do, at least break it in a nice way. And then also then layering in the sports dynamic. I think that's a really strong thing with this, because we can take so much away, not only from, you know, the young love and those heartfelt moments, but anytime there's a good sports story, and we sort of see the contrast, and we'll talk about it more throughout this episode, where, you know, she is the young upcoming superstar basketball player on her team in the second years, where Taiki is sort of the bench warmer scrub who hasn't proven himself. So we've sort of got the superstar and the underdog story sort of playing out in parallel with this bubbling, blooming, will they, won't they romance. So like those are like massive like checkbox ticks for me. And like you said, the animation is gorgeous. The soundtrack really, really accompanies these quieter and louder moments really well. Like the use of music throughout this episode and throughout this season is like, I love it. And yeah, I really like the art style. The characters are well drawn and well animated, and there's a lot of expression and emotion shown with their eyes. Like they've got such big eyes, these characters, but they show so much emotion. And I'm remembering what you said, where it is a little jarring and a bit of sort of almost like whiplashy, where you go from these high detailed, highly animated and drawn scenes to then you see like them showing other emotion in sort of like a little chibi reduced art style. And that can be detrimental to anime sometimes, where it sort of does break the immersion and sort of make you step back a second and go, hang on, is this like a kid's show I'm watching? Like, why do they look like this? And like, I like it because it sort of, in my head, I'm like, okay, this is sort of showing them almost acting like little kids, because they're usually like when they're pouty and upset and whatever. So it works, but it does sort of go, whoa, like it throws you around a little bit and can sort of, leave you a little confused. So I totally get why you're feeling that way.
Yeah. And did you enjoy within like the first 60 seconds, Chinatsu throwing an elbow pass like she was Jason Williams, or like in the And One mixtape tour? I was like, come on.
It was so good.
I'm not going to forget that. Like, serious.
Yeah. And so it does sort of show her prowess pretty quickly, or her rumored prowess, I guess, on the court. So yeah, let's sort of jump in and we'll start unpacking this episode. We'll sort of go front to back. Like we mentioned, this is going to be like a full episodic breakdown. So it's going to be continued spoilers. So if you don't want to hear what happens in episode 1, maybe stop the podcast, but I'd recommend you keep listening and watching, because it's going to be a fantastic discussion. So stick around and sort of hear our thoughts. So yeah, we get a cold open. We see Taiki waking up very early and he's chasing the sunrise as he's running to school. We don't really understand why he's running at first and what he's running towards, but you know, we're getting some really nice sort of scenes overlaid together here, where we're seeing him running down these sort of suburban streets, gorgeously animated, especially when we start seeing the sun come up. Like the use of light in this series is so well done, and the way they animate sort of sunlight especially. So we're seeing him run down the sort of these streets on his way to the school. but we're getting these images overlaid of this at the time sort of nameless girl at school alone on the basketball court, sort of training by herself. So we've sort of got this juxtaposition between these two characters. He then arrives at the gym, and this is where Taiki mentions that, this routine that he holds so dear, where he's waking up early and sort of darting off to the gym at some ungodly hour, is also related in part because there's someone that he wants to meet first thing every morning at school. And you're like, oh, okay, all right. So there's a little bit of a secret crush here potentially developing. He arrives at the gym, opens the gym door, and like you said, Matt, like he opens the gym door and sort of is in awe of her prowess as she's sort of floating around the court. Yeah, an erratic elbow pass from Chinatsu Hanu then just smashes him right in the face. And you're like, whoa, okay, there's some levels here as far as maybe skill ability that maybe this girl doesn't have at this moment, where she's trying to pull off this pass and he's getting bopped in the face. She immediately goes to check up on him, making sure that he's okay. And she also sort of pleads for his forgiveness via some very, very cute bribery where she whips out a Cot Cat just so Nestle doesn't come after them. Shout out to Cot Cats or Kit Kats, one of my favorite chocolates. Are you a Kit Kat man? You love a good Kit Kat?
I eat a chunky every now and then.
Oh, they're so good, especially the mint Aero chunkies they're doing now. It is one of my favorite little chockies. But anyway, so yeah, she gives him a Cot Cat and be like, what, can you forgive me if I give you this winky face? And so, Taiki is sort of fawning over this girl, even though his face is red and throbbing from a basketball. Like, you and I have been clocked in the face with a basketball probably more times than we can count. And it sucks. It
hurts.
Sucks. But he takes it on the chin. We then get some more explanation here as far as the world, where Taiki's mentioning that both he and Chi attend Ime Private High School, which is like a sports powerhouse, which integrates both the junior and the senior students. Hence, because, Taiki's a first year, Chi's a second year, junior, senior, yada, yada. Taiki then explains that he joined the school's badminton team and that mornings are for free practice. And that's why he's sort of, I guess, running there, because he wants to work on his game and get better. He always attempts to be the first one there, but is always beaten by Chinatsu, who's obviously on the girls' basketball team. She beats him there every single time. No matter how early he seems to wake up, she is always there, taking shots, practicing elbow passes, etc., etc. Taiki then here just sort of sneakily lets us all know that he's like, you know what? He likes Chi. Like, I like this girl. I've got a crush on this girl. And you're like, oh, okay. Heart fluttering a little bit. But then we cut to a really fun and gorgeous opening and we get a little bit of insight. We see a lot of really nice shots in the open of both Chinatsu and Taiki, but also a couple of other, at the time, nameless characters sort of doing their thing, both in and out of school. And it's really, really nicely animated. And we've got a really nice song called Same Blue by Hige Dandism, is sort of the artist that lends themselves to the first core for the open. And it sets a really nice tone, I think. So we're about 3 minutes in at this time, Matt. How are you feeling after these first 3 minutes?
It's a lot. It's a lot of things happening all at once. I think it sets the tones like super, super quickly, but it sets it really nicely. As I said, like you get all the information that you really need within that sort of first couple minutes. And as you sort of mentioned, it sets up that sort of like young love scenario, which I think is obviously the main part of the series in general. But yeah, I just think it was so funny that like he gets absolutely clocked from an elbow pass of all things. Like, are we sure he doesn't have like a concussion of some sort?
Probably not. Hey, I think he might have something wrong because it hit him at force.
Yeah, it was not a weak pass, that's for sure. But yeah, look, everything that you sort of mentioned, like the animation and sort of the design of the school as well, like the suburbs and everything, I think was really, really nice. And yeah, the theme was also quite good. I'm normally not a huge fan of sort of anime themes in general, but that was actually quite good.
Nice. Because I've rudely never asked this question. It's probably a big one that probably would have been good to sort of preface if we ultimately went with this anime or another one. But like, are you a big like romance type of guy? Do you love whether it be in a video game, in your content, whether it be film, television, magazines, books? Like, do you love the sort of the heartwarming stuff, or is this something where I've had a major misstep and just went, you know what, you're watching this regardless, sucker?
I think, look, I am not the sort of person who would go out of his way to pick up like a rom-com or something like that if it is if it's well written into either movies or games of a different genre, I'm all for it. I think if it's smartly written and it is, I guess, not so much hitting me over the head with it or hitting me in the face with a bounce pass. Yeah, I'm all for it. But I think, I think that was part of the reason why this was initially a very sort of like tough watch for me to get into. But look, it's a welcome change, I think.
Well, that's good. You know, change can be a positive thing. And yeah, like if we did something like Kuriko's basketball or something instead, I'm sure you'd be sort of fist pumping from the rip instead of this, where it is a bit more of a slow burn where, yes, sport is a key piece of this puzzle, but it's not, you know, the majority of the puzzle. Like there is a lot of things at play here. And we sort of see that after the opening ends, we're immediately back at Ime High, and we sort of see just how sports focused this school is. And we get this really cool sort of almost like drone-based shot through the stadium. And we see, you know, this giant sort of stadium being shared by badminton players, basketball players, as well as gymnastic athletes as well. So like you can see that I guess they're three of the main pillars that the Ime High School is known for when it comes to their, you know, really good sporting prowess. We then sort of flash across to Taiki, and he's sort of in a bit of a dream state here, wishing like that he could marry, he just wants to marry Chi and live a great life. And I'm like, you know what? I love this boy pretty quickly in this episode, because I'm like, you know, he's just a dreamy, silly high school boy that just has all these grand thoughts of big love and the cliched white picket fence and all that. And I'm like, you know what? I can sort of relate to this boy in a way, because I am hopelessly romantic, probably to a detriment at times. So I'm like resonating heavily with Taiki here. And so, yeah, he's having these beautiful images and like, oh, how nice would it be to be married to Chi? Like life would be perfect. And we're introduced then to his friend Kyo, who was like the chalk to Taiki's cheese, where, you know, Taiki's the dreamer, where Kyo is very grounded, very straight-laced, very sort of not like the reality is this and not what you're thinking, kid. And so we introduce, this sort of friendship between the two, and Kyo is just quickly like crushing these thoughts. He's like, you know what? This ain't going to happen. Chi is the team's next ace. She possesses star quality. She's popular both in and out of school, whereas you, Taiki, you're nothing more than a low-level underling who is completely out of this girl's league. So you're like, oh, ow, a little bit. But we sort of see during these early exchanges between the two boys that, like, you know, Taiki, he's a fighter. He's not one to give up easy. Like, he doesn't take these very hard and harsh and painful words from Kyo and goes, you know what, you're right, I need to stop chasing this dream. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna keep fighting. I love a challenge. It's gonna make this victory, like, you know, feel even better if I end up sort of wooing the girl eventually. Kyo then sort of says, all right, like, well, at least you've got to ask her for a contact info. Like, let's exchange numbers. Let's try and sort of develop some form of conversation outside of, you know, shooting hoops and hitting shuttlecocks in the morning. And sort of that's where it ends. Not a euphemism. So anyway, this happens. And then while they're having this discussion about this big grand love that Taiki wants, they get interrupted by the best girl. And I love, like, you know, full spoiler, or not really a spoiler, but like Hina is probably my favorite character in this series, both in the anime and in the manga. I love her. I think she's great. She's so funny and sweet and wholesome and silly. And so we're introduced to her. She is one of the stars of the gymnastic team. And she rolls in and she does the old sort of like knee someone in the back of the knee joint trick, which, you know, is never a good time. So she does it to Taiki. And so we then discover that Kyo, Hina, and Taiki, they've been friends since they were very young. They've sort of worked their way through the various levels of school together. And we get sort of this pseudo-sibling rivalry on display here between Hina and Taiki, where they're arguing and fighting in the background. And Kyo's just, these dumb kids, you know, like he's the old wise head between the three of them. Taiki then asks Hina, you know, what makes girls happy? Because obviously he's trying to work out what can he do to woo Chi a little bit more. And for those wondering, like, Hina immediately is like, whoa, matchmaker time. I love this. Like, her eyes light up and she's like grinning like the Cheshire Cat here. And yeah, for those out there wondering, you know, what is the best way to make girls happy? You cannot be weak. You need to be relaxed and reliable and have physical beauty like Marcel Nguyen. And I've gone away and done a little bit of research on who that exactly is, because I'm like, is that a real person or is that just a random fictitious person they've thrown in here? Happy to confirm it is a real person. They are now retired 3-time Olympian who won 2 silver medals at said Olympics. And they are quite the handsome rooster. Like, they're a good looking son of a gun. So I can already see that, Hina's got very, very sort of high standards and very nice taste when it comes to what she finds attractive. But yeah, circling back, Matt, like, I hated when people used to do that knee thing to me. It made my blood boil instantly. But moving on, like, our cast has now quickly expanded from 2 to 4. Have you got an early favorite from the 4 people you've been introduced to so far?
I will quickly preface this by saying I also hate the knee thing. I also hated getting poked, sort of like,
the double side poke, like under the ribs,
under the ribs, just above sort of like the hips. Was absolutely terrible. Hated it. It's like being jolted with electricity. It's absolute worst. I also agree. Like, I think Hina is by far the most sort of enjoyable part of this whole show. As much as I sort of said, like, the sort of jarring move between sort of like the lighter and the sort of more serious moments of the show, like, she is producing most of the sort of comedy and more sort of enjoyable parts of it. She's very bright, bubbly, and that's sort of why I think the show does well in those moments, because it gives a different side of it and it allows it to stay a little more grounded, I guess, because he's like, Taiki's got his head up in the clouds all the time, and I think she's able to like bring him back down so quickly. I think it's so funny. I think, yeah, she for me is probably the standout for sure.
Yeah, she's a great foil to the 2 boys in this moment. And I always love to see these sort of childhood friendships where you see them they've sort of, grown from when they were 5, 6, 7 years old, and you see that sort of transcend and evolve into sort of high school. And so you immediately think like, is she going to play a part in this in any way? Like, is her and Kyo going to have a relationship? Is, Hina and an yet unnamed unknown character going to appear and have a big budding romance that's going to add another layer to this? So it's kind of cool. I love that, yeah, we get these 4 people introduced and loosely familiar with us pretty quickly within the first half of the episode here. And they are 4 very unique and very distinctive personality types. Like, they aren't all the same with just a different color set of hair. Like, you can see they act and interact and feel and speak all very differently in that. And that's nice, I think.
Yeah, and I think like even with Kyo sort of like basically calling Taiki like an NCAA school that gets knocked out in the first round, that's like, okay, well, they're clearly sort of using the sports terminology and, spreading it on a bit thick. But I think it's so interesting to see how everyone is such a, like, not polar opposites to each other, but they're all very vastly different sort of mentalities and sort of personalities in the show, which I think makes it more enjoyable, if anything.
Yeah, I think so too, because it makes you wonder, like, how did they become friends when they can be so different? Like, what is the common thread here? Like, it's surely more than just sport, right? So you sit there and go, where did these 3 sort of become buddies, and how have they maintained this friendship for so long?
Yeah, and that was the thing, was like the sort of gulf in sort of mentality between Taiki and Kyo is so like, I don't know if I would have been friends if someone was like so polar opposite to me in that sense. Like, if it was real life, I would be like, you're cool, but I'm not sure I would be spending, every day at school with you, sort of thing. So yeah, it's a little bit more sort of cliche in that sense, but I think it's a good change.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, yeah, it's like, when are we going to get more context and backstory on how these 3 came to be? Like, was there a big moment that, strengthened this friendship to the point that it is now? Like, when and where and how are we going to get that story and that explanation sort of provided to us? It doesn't happen in the next scenes, I'll tell you, because we sort of jump forward now to the next day, and we've got Taiki still sulking over what Hina said to him the day before regarding, you need to be physically attractive and be relaxed and reliable, and you can't be weak. And sort of, yeah, Taiki took all that to heart. So you can see, he's got a big heart, this boy. Like you said, he's a dreamer. His head's in the clouds. And when Hina and Kyo in those previous sort of exchanges, I guess, sort of pulled him out of those clouds and dragged him crashing and kicking and screaming to earth, I think it really sort of upset him a little bit. So he's heading back to school. He arrives at the school, and this is probably some of the best animation this episode, I think, in these scenes we're about to unpack here, where he's sort of, he's not running to school in this moment. He's just walking and reflecting and sulking, like I mentioned. And he gets to the school, or the entry to the gym, and he sees Chi sitting outside on the gym steps, and she is just engrossed in this book. And we get these close-up shots of her as she's reading this book and adjusting her hair, like putting some hair behind her ear. And you can sort of see the sun sort of coming in from the other side and lighting and framing her. And it is absolutely gorgeous, these scenes here. Taiki sees her in this state because, what's going on? Why is she in practicing? Like, now's my chance. I can talk to her and get those contact details and make Kyo proud. And so he sort of is trying to build up the confidence and internally talk himself up. How am I going to do it? What do I say? What do I do? And he's sort of going to be asking, like, what book are you reading, Chi? And he sees it's actually like just a book of plays. So she's sort of just reading a book about sort of basketball
the triangle
plays.
Offense.
So he's like, God damn it, this isn't going to work. And so he gets stuck in his head, and he just decides, all right, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to keep quiet and stand here and wait till the gym gets unlocked and we can get in there. But then Chi drops like the cutest sneeze that you'll ever hear on planet Earth. It's like, and it's like, oh my God, I'm dead. But Taiki, as the stoic, caring knight in shining armor that he sort of vows to be, immediately springs to action, and he's like, here's my staff, here's a thermos full of warm tea, and here's a heat pack. Like, I'm going to get you sorted. It's okay. You can't get sick. You're the star of the team. And as he's sort of doing all this, he sort of, I guess, brushes past Chi's body a few times, and he sort of makes this observation like, oh, like her body is on the cooler side. Like, she runs at a cooler ambient body temperature than most, or whatever, random observation. But anyway, we get more context on that later. Chi starts laughing, and she sort of starts poking fun at him. She's like, oh, I'm like wondering, what are you going to give me next? Like, what else is in your bag? And in that moment, he starts like furiously looking through his bag again. And then in this moment, Taiki himself does a little sneeze. And so we see the inverse play out really quickly, where Chi quickly wraps his scarf around him, which is, again, in these scenes, really, really gorgeously animated, really tight shots, sort of seeing the emotion and like the nervousness and like the shock in Taiki's face, especially in this scene. And as she's putting the scarf around his neck, Taiki then starts fantasizing, and he's like, oh, this is like a newlywed wife, tying her husband's necktie. And I'm like, you big dumb idiot. I love you, but like, switch on here, buddy. Like, things are happening right now. And so she ties up the scarf, and then she's like, you know what, Taiki Inamata, I don't want you to catch a cold. Be careful. And so Taiki's like, what? How do you know my name? Like, what is happening here? Like, he's already immediately thinking like, maybe she likes me, or, how does she know this? Like, what attention's he been paying? And then he then realizes that his mum actually wrote his full name on the scarf, as people do at school. Like, a lot of the times, did your parents like write your name on your sloppy Joe and whatever else in case it goes missing? So when he realizes this, he is mortified almost to the point of death. But I like these kind of scenes here, Matt. These are sort of like some of my favorite types of scenes in anything, again, where we're seeing awkwardness and early exploration mixed in with that sort of cuteness, where like it's very heartwarming stuff. It like felt like I was sipping that thermos full of tea in this moment, because my heart was really warm, because it's an innocent, awkward interaction, like we've all been in situations where they've been awkward and stressful, and we haven't known how to act and how to be, especially with someone you might be crushing on. But like, did this little exchange get you feeling warm and fuzzy at all? Or is your cold heart still beating, but just resistant to these things?
All I will say is that brother is down bad. He went way too, he was in there way too quickly, is all I will say. And like, yeah, it's young love. It's going to happen, but like, come on, man, pump the brakes. Like, just a little bit, please. But I think it's what I thought was funny was how she sort of like turned it back on him once he sneezed and was like, here's all your stuff back. And just like, that was a really good sort of like swerve to really put on people. But yeah, he's got to tone it down. I think like, if he feels that way, like, don't tell anyone. Like, just don't go to your friends and be like, I'm going to marry this girl. Like, come on, dude, have some decorum and have some like self-respect for yourself. If someone's saying like, don't be weak, like, don't be making all these grand gestures and making these claims that are very obviously either not going to come true or going to, you know, end up coming back into your face. Like, it's going to be very difficult for you. But yeah, I think that the entire scene in general is, to me, one of the highlights of the episode so far. It's like, as you said, the animation, some of the writing is really good. I think it's a really good encapsulation of Blue Box so far.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, yeah, like you said, like, he is the opposite of cool, calm, and collected. He's like hot, erratic, and flustered or something. Like, that is him. Like, he is the stark contrast to how you'd want to be in this moment, because yeah, his crush of 18 months time, which we find out a little bit later, has finally, I guess, seen him and like knows his name. Like, I can imagine it would have been a big moment, but also, yeah, like dial it back a little bit, like take a breath, then hand the scarf, then the thermos. Like, yeah, just pace it out and try and sort of be on the level here. But yeah, he's anything but.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah, as again, like I love this little doofus. Like I'd love to root for the underdog in love and in sport, and the fact that he's sort of straddling both of those lines, like I can't help but root for this little dork, because yeah, I want him to sort of succeed in all things. So anyway, after that, we see sort of later in the day, the badminton team, they're doing their thing. Taiki is still very much love struck and reflecting on the fact that, yeah, Chi said his name in full, and he's sort of imagining that and how great it was, and how he's almost just like floating, like almost like he's Pepe Le Pew or something, smelling the pheromones floating around this gymnasium. He then gets told, like, after the match he was having, you know, go grab a towel. We got to, you know, wipe the sweat down off the court. So he goes off, grabs a towel, still just daydreaming, goes, gets a towel, sort of rinses the towel off. And as he starts to sort of walk back to the gym, he notices that Chi is outside talking to a teacher. We can't hear what's happening, but you know, it looks kind of like a semi-serious conversation. So, oh, okay, what's up here? We got some drama, we got some stakes coming, but we don't have to sort of wait too long, and we can't reflect on it for that long at all, because Hina arrives and sort of looks over Taiki's shoulder, and he's like, "What do you? Who's this? What's going on?" And she, you know, wises and catches on to this immediately. Like, she is street smart like no one else. Little Hina, again, best girl, love Hina, would die for Hina, and she notices like Chi out there, latches on from the conversation that they had the other day, and just like verbally kicks him right in the nards, where she's like, Taiki, don't aim so high, buddy. It's just like, she's out of your league, and you're like, oh, like hearing that from your school friend would be crippling, Matt.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it's happened to me all the time. Like, I've been there before, so it's that relatability that kills you. But yeah, not the best way to find out, if anything.
Yeah, it's hurting. And I think you mentioned the word like relatability, and I think what I like about Blue Box, both in the anime, like I've watched all 24 episodes that are currently available, and I've read all 188 chapters that are currently available. So I know the story way beyond where we are here. And what I like the most about this story is that it is relatable and real. Like, it is like, yes, it is a love story and a sports story at its core, but there's so many life lessons and so many things that you can watch and have resonate with you, because you've either lived through that or you know someone that's lived through that. Like, it is grounded in reality, outside of, you know, the chibi art change ups on some of those, you know, emotional scenes that we see as well. It is a nice, grounded, real story that has a lot of heart that we can all sort of take something away from. And I love that about this. And yeah, I like, you know, Hina does have, like you said, like we've had friends and family like pull us out of these dreamlands sometimes, where you're like, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to, you know, date this person or get this job or win the lotto. And people like, no, idiot. Like, that ain't happening. You got no chance in hell. And it's, you know, it's tough love, but like, I like that it doesn't shy away from that in this first episode. So yeah, Hina puts the boot in. Taiki sort of tries to play it off as in like, no, like it just looked like a serious conversation. I was just concerned for Chi. But then Hina plays a very cheeky trick on him, where sort of says, I saw her walking home with a guy the other day. And then immediately, like, Taiki with no tact, he's like, what do you mean? Like, who is this man? And so, yeah, Hina's like, you know, trap has been set, got you, sucker. what I sort of was, my suspicions have been confirmed. I know you're crushing on this girl. And after that, so that sort of part ends, and we're sort of jumped to the end of the school day now. Taiki realizes that he left his towel in the gym as all the other sort of badminton players are starting to pack up and head home. It's funny because he's like, Kyo, don't wait for me, bro. Like, just go. And he's like, yeah, like, screw you. I'm out of here. Like, I ain't
not
waiting. I'm going home, you idiot. It's darkness now. It's like 6 o'clock. And so he gets kicked in the guts from his other friend there. So he's copped 2 boots in the span of a couple of hours. And so he goes to grab his towel, only to see Chinatsu still in the court, putting in the work, and still sort of just the only person in the gym at the moment, working on a shot, sort of just shot after shot after shot. He's sort of standing there just like deer in the headlights for a while, just staring at her. She realizes that he's there, throws a basketball to him and sort of says, hey, let's play some one-on-one, and swiftly proceeds to kick his ass. Like, the game is over in an instant. You can sort of see, again, the superstar versus the low-end, lowly NCAA team that gets bounced out in the first round. So you see that sort of chasm as far as the ability gap between the two. But after the game, we get some really nice sort of discussion between the two because, Chi's still just working on a shot. Taiki sort of hunched over, catching his breath, and they're just sort of having a bit of an open, honest discussion. We find out that both of their mothers played basketball, and that's sort of how Taiki played a little bit of basketball as a kid, but realized, team sports aren't for him. We sort of get a little really quick cutaway to him just like charging down the court, like, rage in his eyes, and everyone else sort of fearful around him. And we see also that Chi's mum sort of taught Chi how to play basketball, and they used to play a lot when they were little. And so then Taiki, with his dreamlike state, constantly is like, oh, it's fate. Our mothers played basketball. It's written in the stars. It's meant to be. So again, I love you, you big dumb idiot, but slow it down, catch a breath. We also, during this scene as well, we learned that Taiki, prefers the pressure and the rush of being a solo player, like knowing that, on the court, it lives and dies with him. Like, that win and loss is solely on his shoulders instead of relying on, a team-based sort of mechanic or sort of structure there. Chi then promptly calls him a masochist, which made me chuckle. We then find out that Taiki first saw Chinatsu around 18 months ago. And the way he saw her was he was just, heading to the gym, taking some shuttlecocks back, and ends up in the gym, and he sees, again, Chinatsu practicing alone, working on a shot. But it's different in this moment because she's there shooting constantly, but tears are just like pouring out of her eyes. This poor girl has certainly gone through something. We find out that the reason she's so upset is because they just missed out on going to nationals. They just got bumped, in sort of the last round before sort of making it to the big time. And we find out that in that moment, it was sort of a fork in the road moment for Taiki, where he's like, you're not only seeing her working so hard, goes, you know what, I've got to put my all into badminton, hence now the early morning starts and trying to be the very best, as Ash Ketchum would like to see him do. But also in this moment is when he started to initially like Chi. So it was a big sort of like light bulb cataclysmic moment here for Taiki in that sense. And we get some really, really gorgeous shots here, like really tight headshots and framings of just the faces and the eyes between the two as they're having this real discussion, really raw, but also just open and honest and casual discussion, which I was totally there for. And the scene that ends with Chi and Taiki both reaching for this straight basketball because, the gym teacher or whatever's rocked up. He's like, all right, time to go home, kids, pack up. And so they're putting everything away, and one of the basketballs bounces off one of the basketball racks. They both go to grab the basketball, sort of touch hands or fingers touch sort of as they're grabbing from both sides of the basketball. And then Taiki thinks in this moment, he's like, oh, her hands are feeling warmer than last time because obviously her body temperature is always cooler. And Matt, like at this point, like I'm all in. Like I love, and this fusion of sport and love has just intersected so hard in this little exchange here in the court in this sort of late hour. I'm starting to see the bond and the respect and the acknowledgement start to sort of fuse between the two characters, and it really, really hooked me. I like also that we're exposed to like a big crushing loss that Chi had to deal with, failing to make nationals. So like The stakes are set. It makes me want to root for these characters even more. And I like that we see some loss and hardship, because you never want to see these sort of love stories or sports stories where it's just, a smooth road right to the top where there's no bumps. So the fact that we know that they've been through so much heaviness, especially she in this regard, I'm like, I'm invested, I'm going to be there like flying a flag at the Nationals, because you can do it, girl and boy.
Yeah, it's funny because this is the scene where you sort of get a bit more of a better idea of her ability on the court as well. You sort of get an idea as like, yeah, okay, she didn't make nationals. She probably shouldn't be throwing elbow passes in that regard anymore. It's probably not a great thing to be doing if you're trying to, make nationals and become a big star. But yeah, her shooting, what did you think of her shooting form? It's very like, there's no follow through. And I was like, she seems to be landing a lot of those shots. And I was like, she's just like throwing it up. There's no sort of like, form or mechanics to it. It's
almost
weird.
like a chess pass, the way it sort of pops out. And maybe that could be to do with like the animation. Like it is drawn the same way in the manga. So like they have stayed true to how it was illustrated initially in the manga, which I respect. But yeah, it ain't the prettiest stroke. And like you wonder how she's going to be a star with a shot like that. But I guess, there has been some exceptions in professional sports where they do have a bit of a interesting action or a jerky movement, and yet they are still one of the best in the biz. So I hold out hope for Chi. But yeah, I was curious if you were going to bring it up, because I know, you're a sports fan, you watch these things, and I've been waiting and hoping you were going to sort of highlight that stroke, because yeah, it ain't the prettiest.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to our friend Australia's John O'Peck. He would have probably mentioned that it's this shades of Sean Marion in that shot. Yes. Just absolutely horrific shooting form. I advise anyone to go and look it up for a bit of a laugh. But I will say her, if what she lacks in shooting form, she does make up for with an absolutely solid crossover. Absolutely ties Taiki up like nobody's business. It was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I think we get a lot of information in this scene, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to. You don't want to sort of bombard the viewer, but I think this is enough to sort of get the motives and the backstory for people. And I think that sort of loss and that hardship is good to sort of get out of the way first up, because we want the motivations and that sort of mentality first up. And I think it's perfect for both, and both really sort of use it quite strongly throughout the rest of the episode and hopefully through the rest of the series.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite scenes, like this scene, and obviously the one we sort of unpacked before that, where she's outside reading the book. They're probably my two favorite scenes, or my two standout scenes in this first episode that really, like I said, really hooked me, really sort of sunk its claws into me. And I'm like, all right, I'm in, I'm along for this ride. Let's go. And so we're sort of getting to the back end of the episode now. Next morning, we're greeted again with some really gorgeous scenic shots of the neighborhood. And we see a bit of focus in these scenes as well of like some just early blossoming, like some cherry blossoms starting to open on some trees. Really, really, really pretty scenes. We see Taiki here. He sort of heads downstairs, and there's a copy of Fly High Basketball magazine on the kitchen bench, just casually open at the page, with Chinatsu in there doing her thing, getting some showcase and some national coverage in this magazine, which, shocks Taiki in a big way. And like he blurts out the name, and his mum is in the kitchen at the time as well, like doing the dishes and sort of saying, your breakfast is ready, you've got your lunch ready, yada, yada, yada. We then find out here, obviously we got the mentioning that both their respective mums played basketball earlier, but then that gets narrowed in a little bit more here, and we find out that both Taiki and Chi's mums used to be teammates in the same basketball team, and that they keep in touch from time to time. You're like, oh, maybe this is going to lead to, some more encounters, and the family's going to go out for dinner together or something. But then, just as quick as I'm starting to visualize that, we get a record scratch moment here where Taiki's mum is then like, it's really sad, and it's a shame that the Hano family are all actually moving overseas soon. And you're like, what? My love story? Where's it going? And you can see like this rocks Taiki. Like it smashes him harder than that basketball in the face early in the episode. And he immediately starts thinking and panicking and stressing, grabs his school bag and runs to school at the speed of light, because obviously it is morning, and morning practice is usually just the two of them there. So he's hoping he's going to see her there, runs all the way there. And as he's running, he's thinking about, you can't abandon all this hard work and all your emotions. Like, I saw you 18 months ago in a heap, bawling your eyes out after sort of failing to get to nationals, and now you're going to move away and throw it all away. So he's immediately thinking, I got to change this. And he sort of bursts into the gym, and Chi's sort of been practicing, and he's telling her, you've got to make it to nationals. You've got to, do more. You can't give up. Like, this isn't the end for you. And we get some really good life lessons here from Taiki, where he's sort of telling Chi's like, you know what? We can take it all on board. Like, ever since seeing you and sort of seeing you practice and train every day, I've learned, I've got to work hard every day. I've got to work towards these goals, step by step, bit by bit. And even in defeat, you got to look forward. You can't sort of hit the brakes and mope and sulk and stop there. You got to keep moving forward. You got to keep fighting. So I enjoy that we do have a little bit of motivation, inspiration here from our young sort of dreamer. And, I think people can take away some of that messaging into work and life and love and sport, and etc. And so then he brings up, how hard this is going to be for you to continue these things if you're going to relocate overseas. And then Chi's like, my family's moving, but I'm staying here in Japan with a family acquaintance. And so he's built this thing up to blow up and cause all this drama, and he's there to try and save the day and convince her to stay. And little did he know, she's staying around.
Oh my God. It's so funny just having that sort of, that again, it's a swerve of just like, you hit the nail on the head with a sort of like motivational speech, and it's actually like pretty good, all things considered. And then just to sort of like pull the rug from underneath and be like, oh, I'm not leaving. What are you talking about? And that's just continuing the common trend of this guy being an absolute dimwit. And like, he means well. He's got a heart of gold, but it's just so funny for it to sort of come back and hit him in the face again, this time metaphorically rather than literally. But yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, he's he wears his heart on his sleeve for better or for worse, this boy. And so, he's gotten like massive cases of whiplash twice in the span of, I guess, half an hour or so, like since from getting the news from his mom and then getting this news from Chi. So then we find out here, and this is a really touching, beautiful moment again, where it got me in the feels really good here, because she then thanks Taiki, because she's like, it was your words that caused me to remember how I felt that night 18 months ago when we missed out on the nationals, and made her remember the goal of getting there, and that she's decided to stay and chase that dream because of him. And so she's like, thank you, Taiki. And in this moment, my heart, boom, exploded. My tear ducts opened up, and they welled up pretty good, because it was just so sweet and honest and heartfelt and raw. And then after this little moment, the day sort of ends, and they both agree to, play some more one-on-one basketball together. And also Taiki's like, we'll also play some badminton together. And so they start to forge this relationship and grow closer together and chase these respective dreams. And then sort of we move forward from here to Sunday morning. We see Taiki lying in bed, absolutely mortified, reflecting on everything that he said to Chi in that exchange at the gym, which is great. And it's relatable. Like, I overthink things I say all the time, especially when it comes to like things to do with the heart. So I'm like, I feel like I was like metaphorically laying in that bed with him going, man, I've been there, brother. I know how this works. All be good, but also know the pain you're feeling. And so, he's sort of seeing this reflect, like this sort of conversation play out again and again. He's getting so embarrassed and so worked up. Anyway, he finally sort of summons the courage. He gets out of bed, heads towards the kitchen, opens the kitchen door, only to see Chinatsu standing in the kitchen just casually. Both of their mothers then arrive on the scene, and they explain to Taiki that she will be living at the Taiki residence with them starting this coming spring. And, Chi's mother's like, please look after my daughter, to Taiki, like keep her safe while we go abroad. And we see Taiki's mind get absolutely blown to bits here with the moment as we cut to credits at the end. And that's the end of episode 1.
Just it's a lot to take in. I think you mentioned the sort of like remembering sort of the bad moments. I think that's a strikingly sort of like accurate depiction of like bad moments or feelings that people might have. Like you almost like compartmentalize things and sort of keep things packed away if it's like a bad memory for you, which I felt was eerily accurate for an anime which has so far been going back and forth between the sort of serious and the out there, for lack of a better term. But yeah, it's so funny to sort of get that setup of, you know, him finding out that she'll be staying with him. It lends itself to being almost like an NBC sitcom. Almost, I feel like it will almost be adapted into something like that for sure. Which I hope it doesn't. NBC, if you're listening, like please stay away.
Yeah.
Don't touch it, please.
Chuck Lorre, stay the hell away.
Oh God. But yeah, like it's funny to have that sort of like super serious mental moment in a series like this so far. But yeah, it sets it up all nicely for the big reveal and really sort of the premise of the show, or the main hook or swerve of the show. And it's really ends it quite nicely, because that was the thing that was like, okay, well, now I need to watch more. I need to see how he reacts and how she reacts and how everything sort of like, everything's wrapped up quite nicely for a first episode, but it also leaves you wanting more for a second episode and a third episode, and keeps you wanting to see how the series progresses. So yeah, I think it was wrapped up perfectly.
Yeah, I am very impressed with the amount of storytelling they get done within these, 20 to 22 minutes here, because they throw a lot at us, but not to the point of it being overwhelming or we sort of miss things because there's just too much on our plate we're trying to carry here. I hadn't read the synopses or read the manga before I watched this first episode back in October. So I didn't know this swerve was coming. And when it did drop, I was just like, oh yeah. And like you said, I'm like, I need to know what the hell happens next, because it felt like we were going down this path and then it's just had a hard left-hand hook. And now we're going like this way really aggressively. And I wanted to know, how's this dynamic going to play out? Like, he's dreamed of this woman being his wife and tying his ties and all these other things. And now they're like living under the same roof, breathing and sharing the same air, sitting at the dinner table together. And yet, he is in love with this girl and he's in hook, line and sinker. But yet she only just found out his name like a couple of days ago. So you sit there and go, how is this relationship and dynamic going to play out? And like you said, I think it's the perfect like hook to keep you on the line and go, I need to know what happens. I want to watch more, because this was a really easy watch. It wasn't offensive. It was well paced. It threw a lot at us. It gave us some cool like actiony sports moments, some love, some laughs. And it does sort of walk the tightrope between straight-laced and silly, but I think it sort of balances that really, really well. And yeah, I think overall it was a fantastic first episode. And like, obviously I've been watching more. This first episode hit me that hard that I immediately went out and started reading the manga. And now I'm like so far past the anime that I know what's happening for like the next 3 or 4 seasons if it's to get renewed. So I'm excited to see more of that translate. But how about you? Like, you mentioned you were intrigued and wanted to watch beyond episode 1. Have you yet? And secondly, if you haven't, will you in the future?
I haven't yet, but I do want to. I think, as I sort of mentioned previously, like the way that the first episode sort of wrapped up was the perfect encapsulation of wanting to draw people in and really get someone to go, okay, well, that was really interesting. What's going to happen to these characters after that? And I think you mentioned it there. That's that perfect encapsulation of just silly and serious. There's a lot of it in equal measure here, and the characters are all very, very different people. And so that sort of like even mix where if they bond or clash, it's always a lot of fun. There's nothing that's going to be sort of very dull or boring. I think there's enough there for me to sort of want to get into it more. Having mentioned earlier, like it took a while for me to really get in and gel with the general premise and the style of the show. But I think there's enough there that I would enjoy watching, episode 2 or 3 or, and sort of continuing on with the series. But yeah, it was definitely out of my comfort zone originally, but it was a good watch.
That makes me very happy because I was worried a little bit, especially when you sort of let us off near the start of the episode where we didn't name the anime yet, but you were sort of like, you know what? This isn't for me. Why didn't you give me Blue Lock? And I'm sitting there going, oh no, is this going to be my second ever miss? But luckily it's not.
I think the only reason I sort of prefaced it by mentioning like Blue Lock and Captain Tsubasa was like, you know me, like we, as you said, we've podcasted for years. Like, you know that I'm a big football guy. And I was like, that would have been the more sort of like straightforward pick for sort of like a sports anime. Cause it's like, I love sports, I love wrestling, and I love games, and that for me felt like a more sort of like straightforward, obvious pick. So I do appreciate you going a little bit sort of left field, once again, pardon the pun, to pick something that is not normally in my wheelhouse. And I think that was something that I was surprised about, having like read up about the series and got the the general sort of like synopsis, Wikipedia synopsis. I was like, oh, okay. It's not normally what I would be watching. It's not in my sort of general list of things that I would be sort of putting on after a hard day at work, sort of thing. So yeah, look, I thought it was a lot of fun so far, and yeah, I definitely thank you for bringing my attention to it.
Hey, and I appreciate that because that makes me feel good, because I had some like layup ideas in mind if we want to sort of tie in some more sports-based metaphors, because there is a really good football or soccer, depending on where you are in the world and what you know it as, called Aoashi, that is a soccer/football anime that is grounded as a little bit more heartfelt. Like Blue Lock is fantastic, and yeah, we have covered it on the podcast here, and go check out that episode, and also go watch Blue Lock. Too many blue.
We're going to get
animes.
them confused all the time.
Yeah, and now on this pod, now I'm thinking about it, I've done Blue Box, Blue Lock, and Blue Period on here. So,
oh God,
yeah. So anyway, all three fantastic anime, and all three very different anime. But if you are still on the fence about Blue Lock, if you are still on the fence about Blue Box, but if you've watched one of these sort of 5 anime that are most commonly recommended on my anime list, which is Suzuka, Baby Steps, Touch, Chihara Furu, or His and Her Circumstances, if you've watched any of those 5 anime and really loved it, they are the most 5 commonly recommended. If you love those, you're really going to love Blue Box type of anime. So any of those 5 that I've mentioned, you're like, yeah, that was a great one. Give Blue Box a look. If you haven't watched any of those 5, just give Blue Box a look anyway, because I love it. It's one of my favorite anime that has come out in the last few years. It was one of my top 5 anime of 2024 when it first debuted. And even right now, even though we're sort of into 2025, it is still one of the best anime doing the rounds in this early part of the year. And like, we've got stuff like Solo Leveling and Sakamoto Days and all these other big juggernauts out and about. It is right up there with them from a consistency and a quality standpoint. But Matt, we're going to jump into the last word, presented by our friends over at Ice Tea Aesthetics, the perfect fusion of anime and streetwear. Go cop yourself a few pieces of their free run drop today. And while you're there, be sure to use code Sakura Society 5. That is the number 5 at the end there at checkout to save yourself some cash on that order. But Matt, what is your last word, your last thoughts on Blue Box?
I think it's a really fun and unique sort of take on mashing 2 sort of, I guess, different genres together that you normally don't expect. I think sports and romance is not something that I would normally be, turning on the TV for, but I think it does it in a way that is accessible. It's very eye-catching. It's very thoughtful in the way that it presents these sorts of topics, and there's a bit of comedy thrown in there as well, which I think is always a bit of fun. But yeah, I think I will definitely be watching on as much as I can as Brendan shakes his fist, but it's definitely one that I was not expecting, but I will definitely be looking forward to.
That makes me very happy. And again, my heart is like overflowing with emotion. I rewatched episode 1 before we recorded tonight. And so my heart was already like a flutter and a little delicate and overstimulated, but hearing those words there has sort of tipped me over the edge. I'm feeling very much like Taiki, envisioning sort of scenes of grandeur and ties getting tied by my imaginary wife right now. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Before we shut this studio down, anything that you wanted to shout out, anything that you can mention, you sort of had, you said you've got an episode coming out. Do you have a timeline on when episode 34 of One Perfect Game is going to be dropping?
Yeah, hopefully sometime this coming week, the week
Nice.
of 24th of March as we record, yes, with Gemma Driscoll from Good Game Spawn Point, one of my favorite episodes that I've done in a while, and that will be going up on the One Perfect Game Spotify page. You can listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I guess you can follow what we're doing on X at OPG Pod, and you can always follow what I'm doing on the socials at It's Tilby.
Yes. Do yourself a favor and go follow Matt and all the fantastic things he's done via those links. The links will also be in the show notes below. So just click on through, chuck a follow, and also chuck a rating and review and a subscription on his podcast, this podcast, and all the podcasts you listen to, because those ratings and reviews, they take no time, they cost you no money, but it's just a good, positive karma gesture. So pay it forward where you can, and chuck those ratings and reviews in there. Sadly, the algorithm these days only accepts 5 stars. We don't make the rules. That's just how it is. So 5 stars on One Perfect Game, 5 stars here on the Sakura Society RSS feed and all the other potties you're listening to. If you wanted to get some merchandise, you can do so over at sakurasociety.co/shop. You can also follow us and subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Sakura Society. Get yourself some exclusive access to perks, content, and giveaways you will not find anywhere else on planet Earth. A big thank you to our current frontline producers, Oni, Duffo, and Matthew C. You're the best. Virtual hugs all round. But listeners, viewers, Segoy Squad, and everyone else in between, whether your anime be subbed, dubbed, or still yet to come, enjoy yourself, and much love to all the gorgeous waifus and husbandos out there. Matthew Tilby, thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.